Hi, class. Let's start chapter 3. Okay, in chapter 3 of Management Information System, we'll be talking about managing information system. Um, so the learning objective of this chapter is after we read this, you will be able to answer the following questions. Which features of organization do managers need to know about to develop and use the information system successfully? What is the impact of the information system on the organization? How does Porter's, that educated marketing, competitive forces model help companies to develop the competitive strategies using information system? And how do the value chain and a value web model help business identify opportunity for a strategic information system application? Number four, how do the information system help business use a synergic core competencies and network based strategy to achieve the competitive advantage, and what are the challenges posted by the strategic information system, and how should they be addressed? Um, you see, we use IT solutions and the information system to drive us somewhere, and we know we're not using the information system or the IT solution just for sake of using it. It has to have a reason for using it. Now, in the case of Google, when is it moving to a social strategy in old days, Google social strategy was outdated and lacked focus. So this they introduced Google Plus, which is they incorporated location data, allows people to see where the friends are and what they are like. People had have to opt in to allow access to their locations, and demonstrates how information system help business compete and how it is a challenge to sustain a competitive advantage. In one of the probably considered to be the second biggest mall in Middle East, they introduce an application where it's a mobile application. You download it for free, and it memorize your car location. It was in that time was a little bit complicated, but now it's a very simple. But it memorized it because it had a lot of parking, so it memorized the car location. But the other side, if there is any discount or anything is going on sale, because it's a huge, as big as Edmonton Mall, uh, for some stores, and you're passing beside that stores, you will see some ads coming to you indirectly from the allocating your location and finding if you're near to that store. So they will, or about to come close to them, they will send you on the spot an advertisement like a discount or a special pricing or something like that. So that's the way they justify. They got their income from the stores who was willing to and paid for the application. So information technology and organization influence each other. You probably uh, you need a certain application to do something better, and once you start doing in something better, the information outside coming through this system will let you know what else do you need in that sense. So the relationship influenced by organizations usually this type of relationship, and could be structured, could be business processes, is or because of the politics, culture reason, environment, and managed decision. These are all influence the relationship between IT solutions and the organization. In a way, the two-way relationship between organization and information system, as you see here, is it is the meditating factors, as we said, environment, culture, structures, business processes, politics, and management decision. So for them to meet some of these requirements of the company, two ways relationship is mediated by many factors, not the least of which uh, are the decision made or not made by managers. Um, Other factor meditating the relationship include the organization culture, the structure, as we said, and rest of it. And if you notice that when you have an organization, you plan to put some kind of an information system. And once you get the information system, it will influence the organization and you working better. And also you're getting the data as the information. What else do you need for a solution to have a complete solution also? So here we gonna start from the scratch is what is an organization? The technical definition for it is a stable, formal social structure that takes resources from the environment and process it and then produce some kind of output. Uh, so whatever is the resources could be manpower, labor, or could be products, or together, and they process it, and there is some kind of output is there. A formal legal entity with the internal rules and procedures. That's another way of looking at it, as well as a social structure. So these are the definition for for an organization. Then there is what you call the behavioral definition, and you take it probably at the a course on behavioral management. It's part of the management courses, but it's all about a collection of rights, privileges, obligation, and responsibility that is delicately balanced over a period of time through a conflict and conflict of resolutions. You notice that you go some organization, you will see that on a certain level of management has different rules and tasks. Yet when you go to another organization, you see there is more or less responsibilities, delegation, and obligation that comes from the through the conflict and conflict resolution it happening. So basically, in the microeconomic, the technical microeconomic definition is an organization takes the input from the environment, whatever is labor or goods, process it, and then provide an output to the environment. And it keeps this approach and the output to environment, output to factors, take it over, and then also create more internal input. In the microeconomic definition of organization, there is a capital and labor, the primary production factors provided by the environment, are transformed by the firm through the production process into the product and services, output to the environment. So the products and the service are consumed by the environment, which supplies additional capital and labor as inputs in the feedback loop. Let's simplify it. Let's say there is no human being around. There is only one bakery, and there is people are working in a bakery, and the people brings the wheats and the flours and the manpower and produce bread, process it to bread, and these people after that they sell it within internal organization. They will pay for it, eat the food, and get involved in the process. So to buy the bread, they have to pay it, and then the organization gets more flowers and manpower to produce it. So it is and a process between inputs from the environment, output to the environment uh, happening there. The behavioral view of organization says there is an environmental resource. The behavioral view of organization emphasize really on a group, relationship, value, and structure. So it's basically when you're in the environmental resources, the formal organization is made of a structure, which is hierarchy structures, the division of labors. There is rules, procedures, business processes, and culture. And then when you're done with the structure, building the structure, there is a process, which is the rights, obligation, privilege, responsibilities, what's the values there, what's the norms there, and the people. And that generate and to an environmental outputs. That's from more psychological approach. The first one from economical approach. So the features of any organization really, it doesn't matter which one, you're looking at it from economical or psychological, there is always routine and business processes. And routines, you can define them like, what do you do daily when you go to your work? You wake up in the morning, you take a shower, you have a breakfast, you put your clothes on, you get on the bus. That's a routine you do if you do it every day. And a processes is the fact all these routines together to go to school. This is the processes, which is called now a routine and business processes. So the features of any organization, it has routines, it has business processes, it has, which is one thing get together, we come together. There is an organizational politics, there is organizational culture, there is organizational environment, organizational structure, and other organizational feature, which is each one of them will be talking about them in detail. Now, what's the routines? Routines is the standard operating procedures, like a precise rules, procedures, a practice developed to cope with the virtual all expected situation. So you do all, when you react to an expected situation, then it's become, these are routine. Now, a collection of routines that called business processes. And business firms is collection of these business processes. So if you look at a business firm made of processes, and each process is made of routines. So in a graph, if you have an organization or composed of individual, routines and behavioral, a collect of each makes up a business of processes together. Um, so the new information system application requires that individual routines and business processes change to achieve the higher level of organization. It's basically individual routines, and there is certain processes it need to be done when they are together like the activities, then it becomes a business firm together. So it's breaking down. The whole business firm is about processes, and the whole processes, business processes, is about routines, things that is done. Now, there is what you call organizational politics. So the divergent viewpoint led to a political struggle, competition, and conflict. Political resistance is a greatly hampers organizational change. Now, not all the politics is good or bad. It depends what's the reason of having these politics within the organization. It could be to make the organization not susceptible to outside attacks, or it could be to for reason of having better business going on. So these are the reason they might be involved with it. As example, when I was working in ITS, International Turkey Business, I had a trip from Kuwait to Dubai. There I met the uh, Higher College of Technology in Dubai, which was funded by the government, and that one of the highest paid people as teachers and professors and all this. There I supposed to meet in the morning, you know, uh, dean of registrar and the IT manager. And suddenly they came, there were two old Canadian ladies sat at 10 o'clock in the morning in the hotel, and I had my partner with me, and suddenly they decided, we have to pay, what kind of drink they like to. So they decided to drink alcohol. Now, the organization that I work for, because they work with a lots of Islamic banking, they just decided not to entertain, not to pay for any alcohol. I didn't know that. So, but the thing is, that's one of the politics of the company because they want to do much better business with these Islamic banking. So they showing that they're not paying. So when I paid it and I took the bills, my supervisor, my manager, said, "Well, we don't pay alcohol." I said, "Well, I didn't drink. The customer did." And I couldn't, tell them no because I didn't know basically. So I said, "Don't worry about it. This is your first time. We will find a way to pay you this bill. But you want to make sure next time if somebody tells you that, say, no, we don't do that." Okay. So this is one of the company politics that benefited the company because they do lots of business with Islamic banking systems, with the banks, Islamic bank. So they don't want to show that they entertain any alcohol. So these are the things might be a good thing for the company. There might be some competition, might be some conflict as would happen, as I explained to you, and there might be some political resistance greatly hamper the organizational changes. Now, there is what you call the organizational culture, and the encompass set of assumptions that define the goal and the products, and what product the organization should produce, how and where it should be produced, for whom the product should be produced, and maybe uh, powerful unifying forces as well as restraint on the changes. For example, once again, I can bring the example of ITS. Their culture is the fact that they are consider themselves the high end of IT consultant. So they're focusing for the high paid and they are IT sensitive. So they go to the banking system and they focus on and telco systems and they focus on only on the core solution because the core solution, the rest of the solution connected to it. So if anything goes wrong with the core solution, might affect all the organization. But if other application connected to it, that part will go wrong. So this is where they what product the organization should produce. It's clear for them how and where it should be produced and for whom the product should be produced. So they are targeting the banking and the telco core solution, and they are producing it locally and customizing it and localizing it. Because especially in the banking system, the Islamic banking system, they have a solution for Islamic banking system and the commercial of regular banking system, and it's a little bit different. Actually, lots of difference there. So they have to accommodate the both type of solutions. Anyway, then we got the organizational environment is organizations and environment have a reciprocal relationship what from outside affecting the organization, and whatever is going on in the organization might affect the outside. Organizations are open to and depend on the social and the physical environment. And this is a very simple example. When we did the implementation in Iraq, we asked for more money because the environment wasn't safe. So, you know, that's where the effect is happening. The organization can influence their environment. Organization environment generally change faster than the organization itself, and the organization follow the environment. And here where the information system can be an instrument for environmental scanning, act as a lens, is basically when you see your system has two part of it. One is whether it's accommodating the requirement from the environment. Secondly, how fast is accommodating it. The system was very transparent, will let you know whether you need to upgrade or change or add more factors within your organizations. So it's basically environment shape what organization can do, but organization can influence their environment and decide to change environment altogether also. And for information technology plays a critical role in environment change and helping in the organization on their environment. I was, when I was in the University of Winnipeg, I decided for some reason we were taking macro and microeconomics, and I did a project on banana. I don't know why I did that, but in old days, you go to the library, start searching, and found out around 30 books about the banana history, banana business, and at that time there were not much, things happening. But the summary, what I came up with it and found out that United Way Fruit Company, which is they had a different name, they had built the railways in the South America, they had the plantations, and eventually the people uh, kicked out United Fruit Company. And because it's an American company, in some cases, the American government came in and made a coup d'etat or revolution just to keep the flow of banana from South America to North America under the control of United Fruit Company. And now it's called Chiquita, by the way. And they built cities for that. So here, whereas the United Fruit Company changed the total country, not the only environment. So it's basically environment and organization have a reciprocal relationship. And you notice here the firm is like an eyes, and there is a lenses, and they view the government, the competitors, the customers, financial institution, cultures, and knowledge and technology, and the information system goes through it. So there is one more thing that I wanted to add is that when you talk about each country and how they make their money, for example, if you notice for Japan comes in for example was cars, electronics. Basically, this is how they make their money. When you talk about USA is creating more war to sell more weapons. So this is, and it's all driven by the organization, the profitable organization, how they are operating. Now, once in a while, we run to a disruptive technology, which is riding the wave. And now we're coming to a very disruptive technology, especially in the field of artificial intelligence. Technology that bring about sweeping changes to business, industries, and market. It totally changes. Like things like a personal computer, word processing software, the internet, the page rank algorithm that's happening. So these are, creating what do you call, they are a disruptive technology, which is making a big change. And in this field, the first movers and the fast followers, the first movers is inventors of these disruptive technologies, and the fast follower firms that with the size and resources to capitalize on that technology. In USA, most of the first movers is done by the government of USA, especially the military sectors, and the fast followers. These are the big companies that we are know about them. Like for example, if you're talking about RFIDs, it's been there within the U.S. militaries for the last 30 years, but only the last 10 years they made it public, and the fast movers or fast followers came in the picture and start, capitalize on that business. So the disruptive technology, always we see there is a winners and losers. And for example, in the case of microprocessors, chips, thousands of and eventually millions of transistors on a silicon chip. Microprocessors firms such as they won, like Intel, Texas Instrument, while transistor firms like General Electric declined that in that field. Um, the personal computer in 1975, when it came, it was a small, inexpensive, but fully functional desktop computer. PC manufacturers like HP, Apple, IBM, and chip manufacturer Prospect, while mainframe like IBM and mini computers like the firm, the loss. So I'm not gonna go on this table. You can go and see it. World Wide Web happens, internet, music affected deeply the music industries, the software as a web, and coming with the cloud and all these things. Uh, Software as a web affected the Salesforce as a win, and then you got the traditional one like Oracle and SAP and Microsoft trying to catch up, but that's where the loss happened for them. So in the organizational structure, the five basic kind of organizational structure, the kind of the information system often reflect the type of organizational structure. Here is the organizational structure. We have one type, which is what you call the entrepreneur structure, and usually young people or mid-age trying to establish their own business, small startup business, and Usually they are small firms and in a fast changing environment. It has a simple structures and managed by an entrepreneur serving as its single chief executive officer, and simple business plans, simple applications, and all these things. And then you have the machine bureaucracy. So there are large bureaucracies existing, and it is slowly changing, like the government, um, ministries, environment, producing a standard product. It is dominated by centralized management team, and centralized decision making is usually they are mid-size manufacturing firms also. These are that type also. Then you have the divisionals. Bureaucracy is a combination of multiple machine, separated. They operate separation, each producing a different product or services, all topped by one central headquarter. A good example, probably Procter and Gamble, or Adidas. They are into making sports, and they're also into making detergent and cleaning stuff. Um, Large firm with a product or service division, like local example, Bombardier. And then you have the professional bureaucracy, or the professional organization, which is like Ernest and Young, uh, Arthur Anderson, technology evaluation centers, which is they're a knowledge-based organization where goods and services depend on the organization, on the organization expertise and knowledge of their professional, dominated by department heads with a weak centralized authority. Probably schools, hospitals, law firms, universities is like that type. And then you'd have advocacy, which is a task force, and they get established like a consulting firm. They get established for a certain task, and then when it's done that task, they move to another task with a different group within the organization. And task force organization that must respond to a rapidly changing environment consists of a large group of specialized or specialists organized into a short-lived multidisciplinary team with a weak central management, especially probably the special forces in the military. They are that type also. So how information impact organization? This is me. Now, there is economic impact. That is what you call organization and behavioral impact, which is made of IT flatten the organization. If the software influencing that, when you have a right softwares, a good softwares implemented, or you have a good information system implemented, they will have a better economic, more profit or more production, whatever the reason. So there is economic impact. And then you have the organizational and behavioral impact. The organization becomes more flatted instead of very horizontal. There is a post-industrial organization after this gets implemented, and there is understanding the organizational resisting to change, which is information system help you whether the organization is really resisting the change or not. And also can smooth the change if the organization, if the people in the organization accepting the information system but resisting the change. This system you can put a different process and processes there, and that can smooth the organization changing to that. The other thing that the information system can impact is the internet and, in the organization. And we will be talking about how the internet internally and externally with suppliers and customer affected the whole deal. The implication for designing and understanding of the information system. So other organization features like the goals, what happened with the information system can coercive utility, there is organization which is they are kind of, coercive or utilitarians or normative, you know, structures, which is probably this sometimes if you implement the right application that can minimize these types of organization, constituous organization, most established by the government or nonprofit organization. There is what you call a leadership style organization, and there is a task oriented, and there is what you call surrounding environment organization, and it's features like that. Um, so when we talk about the economic impact, we spoke about different types, and now we start with the beginning one, which is the economic impact, which is the how the information system impact the organization. We will talk about how the system impact the organization. Now, IT changes relative cost of capital and the cost of information. Um, so your amount of changes in IT is relative to the cost. You want to save cost. We did in the first class, second class spoke about how you select an effective application and the cost of the information, whether these information that you're going to collect, if you're not using an IT, is a very costly, so you'd rather to use an IT, for example. There also is information system technology is a factor of production and like capital of labor, the processes, organize the processes in the production, the machineries, all these things. It affects the cost and the quality of information and the changes economics of information. So basically, when you add more information, in most of the apps, what they do when you upgrade the application information, you're not going to lose the previous. So there is a track of updating, and you know how the things is changing, and it helps the firms contract in the size because it reduces the transaction cost, the cost of participating in the market. So they can shrink, these companies can shrink, have less labor, maybe less labor or materials probably, because they're implementing some kind of IT solution. And also on the other hand, you need, if you're using some kind of a internet, emails, other ITs, telephones or whatever, mobile, and then the cost of participating in the market is less. If you have some kind of application that's running the whole ground of the work pretty smoothly, it also can reduce the cost of participating in the market. Well, there is in economics, there is different theories. One theory that we don't hear about it a lot is transactional or transaction cost theory. And it's basically, it's it's not very famous with the economics, in the economics, and because a theory usually it drives some understanding when you're putting A and B together. In the theory, you usually get a C. Here, this transaction cost theory does not do that very clearly. So lots of economists reject that, don't like it because they cannot 100% utilize it. So they choose other theories. But the business sectors, probably the ones who are aware of it, they, interested in that. I had one professor within, you know, Department of Economics in my undergraduate, and I can see the other professors who teach in economics, they were fighting him to get him out of, the whole university probably. It's because he believes in the transactional cost theory, and he always preach it and, talks about in his course, keep utilizing that theory, which is the others who use the monetary theory, the fiscal theories, they don't like it because it does not drive the end result pretty clear. But anyway, so we said that the firms seek to economize on cost of participation in the market. It's called a transaction cost. It lowers the market transaction cost for a firm, making it worthwhile for a firm to transact with other firms rather than grow the number of employees. Outsourcing, as simple as that. You can have a whole line of airline business without owning any plane or any, you don't, have employees that working for you directly. You don't have any maintenance. You can outsource everything and have your airline under your name, and you can operate all these things. That's possible also. There is what you call an agency theories, which is firms as an excess of contracts among self-interest parties requiring supervision. They keep, its firms is made of more contracts with the, third parties, outside the suppliers and customers within themselves in order for them to have more, supervision. It's what you call the agency theory. Firms experience agency cost, the cost of managing and supervision, which rise as firms grow. So they do the outsourcing because they don't want, the reason they don't want to have an extra cost on managing and outsourcing. Let the third party does it, and when they do it, we sign a contract with them. In a way, we get our product with this quality. We don't care how they do it, where they do it, and when they do it, as long as I get it on time with a certain standard and quality. This can also, IT can reduce the agency costs, making it possible for a firm to grow without adding to the cost of supervision because, they are all connected. And also whenever the product, it can be tested and pass or fail. I think you probably saw it in one of these videos of how it's done and without adding any extra employees. So these older employees can be outsourced and have an IT system where you can really run your processes. So in the case of organizational and behavioral impact, IT, we said, is a flat in the organization, and instead of like this, becomes more flat. And this is because it it pushed the decision making lower. And we brought an example, having you are traveling in a country, having a meeting at 8 p.m. with a potential client, and suddenly you make some request and your manager is not available. So the system, the CRM system, and the business intelligence system can help you to make that decision on the spot. So you don't need your manager anymore because it's a flatted. And basically, as we said, there will be a fewer manager needed. IT enable faster decision making in the increased span of control. So we know there is three kind of decision making. One is a routine one, which is could be a part of the system and develop. One is a mix between non-routine and routine, and that's probably done by middle management. And then you have the non-routine ones, which is you need to collect all the data, put the data together and see what's result for it, and have a what if analysis there, and then you make that decision, which is from the top to the bottom in the third case. And in the post-industrial organizations flatten because in the post-industrial society, authority increasingly relies on knowledge and competence rather than formal position. So the whomever has the knowledge can be very powerful and also can make the decisions. So you see here a traditional organization versus the flattened one by removing some layers of management. And you will see these kind of flattened ones is more into, in advanced service probably oriented organization. For example, in the IT firms, you will see flatten or more when it comes to the first level. And the second level, you will have some kind of a metrics approach to doing tasks. And we will be talking details on a metrics approach of how doing the task. Understanding organizational resistance to change. So there is always resistance to change. And we said when we want to select the softwares, how we can overcome this resistance by eh, having a consent from everybody. But resistance is there. Information system become bound up in the organizational politics because they influence the access to the key resources. Information system also potentially change the organization structure, culture, political, and work. And most common reason for a failure in a large project is due to the organizational and political resistance, as you know, to change. So resistant to change, it can be done and created by one of these four or any of these four or a combination of them. And it's basically could be because of the organizational structure and how it works. It could be because the job task, they don't want to change it because they are, for example, because there could be for information technology or the people they work on the DB2 for a while, they don't want to change the database that they're going to work on it. The other part of the IT that changing the organization, as you know, the internet, and the internet increased the accessibilities, the storage, and the distribution of information and knowledge for organization. The internet can greatly lower the transaction and the agency cost because you don't have the process of getting on your car and meeting the supplier. You can do it online, and they look like you and your supplier and your customer, all of them in one field on the internet. So the thing is will lower the transaction and the agency cost. For example, a large firm deliver internal manual. That's a very simple, a good example to employees, like the policies or certain stuff through the web, or have it stored in their site to take it out, and instead of printing it and cost so many million of dollars probably. Um, except when it comes, for some reason, the legal department that I worked in our organization, they had to have a hard copies, and we had to sign it and co-sign it as a hard copy because I was looking after the relationship between Oracle and this technical company. So the implication for the design and understanding the information system. Information system must be developed with an understanding of the organization in the which they will be used. So once again, we need to know what we want, how we're going to use that system before we select or develop our system. These must be considered the organizational culture, also the structure, the environment, the group will use the information system, and the kind of task, processes, and decisions the information system is meant to assist. You see, one of the issues that made few colleges accept the application, I was putting up front that the student information system that I'm will be implementing it for them is about, you know, privacy and understanding uh, transparency is the information. For example, if somebody wants to sign up for the college in a different country, he will know also the housing, who is his roommate. He also would know when time the classes start, when the semester is going to start, who's his professor. All the information will be available for him before he moves out to come in there. And also all the stakeholder involved with it. And basically, when I do a consultancy in that, I I bring a scenario, a very complicated scenario in that time, and try to break it down how we will use the application to solve this problem. And as usually what I say, um, a father and a mother have an argument at 10 o'clock in the night over their child, whether he's doing well in college or not. And he is in a different country. So at that time, they want to make sure these guys are doing right. So they come and, you know, have access to the system and start finding out the progress of his son or his daughter in that college. So that's the I start or the whole application where the father and son and mother goes, where they're supposed to click, what kind of information, whether there is outsourcing, outstanding payment, whether there's a book, they can have all this transparency information because the whole concept is when a son or a daughter is getting educated, whether local or international, it is about the whole family and could be even the neighbors are involved in this journey with that person. So if we're approaching the business from a Porter's competitive force model, we said that there is five forces. There is the traditional competitors, there is the new market entrance, there is the substitute products and services, there is the customers, and there's all suppliers. There are all these five influencing how we do the business and eventually influencing the IT solution that we selecting. So here we look at the competitor substitute products, we look at the new market, we look at how we deal with the suppliers and customers. And in the same time, we look at our competitors, how they do these things also. So in the Porter competitive, because we're competing with them, in the Porter competitive forces model, the strategic position of the firm and its strategies are determined not only by competition with its traditional direct competitor, but also by the four other forces in the industries environment, new market entrants, substitute product, customers, and suppliers. For example, for the company of ITS, there was one competition in the oil industries where they were competing with them. And there was a fierce competition between them. Apparently, the management sat and said, let's divide the oil industries between us. And this is a competitor. So what happened? They said, well, in this company organization, you just don't. They made of like a oil industry. I think it's 8 of them in Kuwait. They said all these organization we will be competing. We're going in and bidding for the bid is pretty high. We're talking about at least 25 millions and above for solution. And if we need, we will utilize your strength. In this organization, you go and compete and get the businesses. And if you need, we're willing to supply you with our shit. So in this eventually moved from a competition to an alliance. But for 10 years, they were trying to, compete with each others and was, fair base, non-fair base. I don't want to get into that details, but they were competing. Eventually, they decided to do that. Now, using information system to achieve the competitive advantage, as we said there is a traditional, which is all firms share market space with the competitors who are continuously devising, changing, or coming with a new product, a new service, more efficiencies, and switching costs, minimizing the cost. There is another force, which is the new market entries. Some industry have a high barrier to entry, like computer chips business, the telecommunication is one of them, power generating industries is one of them, oil also. And new companies have a new equipment, younger worker, but a little brand recognition. They usually try to come in, and most of the time, whether they join the bigger companies or they're strong enough to sustain their business to compete and get stronger. Then you have what you the substitute effect and the substitute product and services. And probably the best example is the Pepsi and Cola as a product. Substitute customers might use if your price becomes too high, they go with another product. Like when they iTunes substitute for the CDs because the cost of the iTunes was a very low for compared to the CDs. And then there is a force coming in from the customers themselves, where the customer can control the business and can customers easily switch to a competitor products? Can they, or they have no option but to stick with that? For example, when it comes to supplying of water. I don't have that much option. In the old days, there were not much, no MVNOs operating, so I had only Rogers there, and probably later on came Bill. But then when they start MVNOs, maybe and later on we'll speak more details how the MVNOs work, and you were able to sign up with the small telecommunication companies who can provide you the whole type of work that the big telecommunication. So the customer got more freedom to switch between them. Then you got the supplier, which is sometimes suppliers, market power of suppliers when the firms cannot raise the price as fast as suppliers. So the supplier keep raising their prices and the firms locally cannot raise that price and they can affect that. And maybe sometimes the supplier decide, well, they will cut the middleman and go in. That's another effect also the supplier that have on how you do conduct your business. information system strategy that is dealing with competitive force in these cases. You need to have a low cost leadership. When you start there, you're a leader in the low cost, so you can really be very competitive and respond to these forces. You also can have a kind of a product differentiation, so that makes you special than others. You need to maybe you need to focus on a market niche, like as I said, we're focusing on banking and telco only. And you need to strengthen with your customer, the relation, and with the supplier intimacy. Strengthen the customer and the supplier intimacy. In case of the customer, the new concept. See, when you buying some kind of a brand name, is actually you're not buying the brand itself. You're buying the feeling that you get from this branding. See, when you start dating somebody, or you married somebody, you marry that person or you're in love with that person because it's how that person makes you feel. So when it comes to the Nike and Adidas or whatever the brand name Mercedes, it's about how you feel about that thing, that brand name. It's not the brand name that you're loyal about it, it's the feeling that you get from using these things. So that's what you call the intimacies with the brand. And the same thing that's happening with your suppliers. Um, in the case of low cost leadership, produce products and services at the low price than the competitors, obviously, while enhancing the quality and level of the service. Like a Walmart, continuous replenishment of their system and providing better service and products than the competition. You can come up with kind of a product differentiation, enable the new product or service to greatly change the customer convenience and experience. An example is like what the Google does, Nike and Apple iPhone. But more than that, I would say what this company did, which is brought um, a combination of Oracle Financial, because Oracle Financial was in the old days was strong and now stronger also, and can accommodate all the financial and integrated with HR access of IBM. And then, because Oracle had a weak HR solution in that time, so when the company came and integrated these two applications, they had to set up two different database, integrated these two applications, and they put an extension to customize the customer. So they came in with a product that conquered the oil industries in UAE, and Oracle itself could not compete, neither the partners of Oracle, and IBM could not compete because when the IBM came in, they said you don't have a good financial application. When the Oracle came in trying to beat this company, the customers told him you don't have a good HR solution that meet our need. So this kind of a product differentiation can happen also, a mix and match, and you suddenly have a different product available. Now, an examples, IT-enabled new products and service providing competitive edge is like Amazon, and you see what's going on, one click and they have the patent. The online music, like Apple, iPod, and iTunes. You have the online person-to-person payment, which is PayPal. PayPal enabled the transfer of money between individual bank and between the bank account and a credit card. The, the MVAS, the mobile value added service of part of OG Money, One Global Money. I was the chief operating officer for some of their countries is a very similar to PayPal with a more added function and features and services, and they called it. It became part of MVAS, which is mobile value added services. Um, we'll talk and probably will have an assignment about it. How did it work? It's a fully a marriage, a beautiful marriage between business, functionality, and technology, and rules and regulations of the banking system and money systems. So to deal with them is you need, as we said, you need to focus on a market niche and use the information system to enable a focus in market strategy, a single market niche. You probably can specialize in it, like Hilton hotels, like the ITS in core banking solution for Islamic banks, something like that. Um, strengthen the customers and the supplier intimacies, use the information system. You can use that information system to develop a stronger ties and loyalty with the customer. And we told you how you do that. The customer, it buys these things because it feels that he can be part of the special club, like Mercedes doing something kind of a special club. Porsche is having some special club for certain cars, the Mercedes have it. So these you strengthen the relationship with the customers, and you can strengthen the relationship with the supplier by, selling better, more for them, asking, communicating with them, telling them what's expecting from them, and vice versa. Use the information system to develop a strong ties and loyalty with the customers and suppliers and increase the switching cost, like what Chrysler and Amazon. Amazon brought the suppliers, different suppliers, and different customers, and they are connections between them. They don't produce, they don't sell, but they connect them. They might have a third party outsource for deliveries and transportation, and made it available for anybody to open a virtual store there. So there is the four basic strategy. We said the low cost leadership, which is use the information system to produce products and services at the lower price than the competitors, while enhancing the quality and the level of service. And we said like Walmart, you might have a different product differentiation, which is you can use this information system to differentiate the product and enable the new services and product keep coming, like Apple, like Google and eBay. And you might be doing a focus on a market niche, like using this information to enable a focused strategy on a single market niche, specialized in it, so you can utilize this information in that way, like the Hilton hotels, and you might strengthen our customer and supplier intimacy, which is using the information system to develop a strong ties and loyalty with the customers and suppliers, like what the Chrysler Corporation and Amazon does. The impact of internet on competitive forces and industry structures. We spoke about the substitute product versus the services, or the services substitute product, or the service itself, enabling a new substitute to emerge with a new approach of meeting the needs of performance. You have a customer bargaining power. Availability of a global price and product information shift bargaining powers to more to the customers. They can buy from you or buy from somewhere else, and the information at his fingertips or her fingertips. In the case of suppliers, Bargaining power, as we said, the procurement over the internet tend to raise the bargaining power over the supplier, but the supplier can also benefit from reducing the barrier to entry and from the entitlement of distribution and other intermediaries standing between them and their users. So now in the old days, you might have a local representative who can help you on the ground to sell. Now, because of the internet, it happens that you don't need that much local representative. You can sell directly also. In case of the threat of a new entrance, the reduction of barriers to entry, such as the need for a sales force, access to the channels, and physical asset, the internet provide the technology for driving business process that makes other things easier to do. We said with the internet, you don't need really sales force, a big sales force. You might not need that much, a process people for papers and all these things. The system can do all these things. And also when it comes to the positioning and rivalry among the existing competitors, winding of the geographical, it's open market now, increasing the number of competitors. So you compete with outside competing with you, and reducing the difference among the competitors now. The internet makes it more difficult really to sustain the operation advantage and increase the pressure on competing pricing, because you can right now, if you need an IT consultant, you can get it in Canada, $2,000 a day at least. The same IT consultant, you can do it from offshore at $500. So that's put a string on the prices. Um, the value chain. We spoke about the MVAS, mobile value added services, and we spoke about that the fact that when we are buying something, really we pay dollar and we get the values. And I brought an example, always bring it, is when my brother told me let's buy DVD players is cheap. It was $100. The price went way down. So I got excited, wanted to buy. Then I decided, says no. He said, why? I said, well, I don't watch that much movies, so I don't need a DVD player. In case I did were able to purchase it, but I didn't see the value of $100 worth to pay for DVD player. So the value, that's what we are willing to pay. Now, the issue of able to pay, that's something else. In my case, I was able to pay that $100, but I'm not willing to pay that $100 because I did not see the value in the product. So when a firm is viewed as a series of activities that added value to the product of service or services, they see that, you know, there is a value in that product. And you notice one thing, all the products goes into four categories, whether it is a product oriented, whether it's a service oriented, and then you have trying to add value to have an extra edge on a regular product is that your real business is selling the product, but you're adding services like the cars, and that makes it more valuable for you. Or your goal is really to sell the services like the mobile companies, and you give them a free iPhone, and really just you add more value on your service that you're providing. IBM does that, Roger does that. Yeah, Bell does that. All of them, they give you a free mobile, not to give you that mobile because they want to sell you their services. But when you see a mobile, you put more value in their services, directly or indirectly. So firm is viewed as a series of activities that added value to the product or the service, highlights activity where competitor strategies can best be applied, primary activities or the support activities. And so, as we said, the primary activities is probably giving you a good call, but also providing you support activities, which is the service. If they 24 hours, 7 days on a road assistant, this is like a support activities. At each stage, determine how information system can improve the operational efficiencies and improve the customer and supplier intimacy. So when you're looking at yourself and you say, I'm selling a product, you want to have a good quality of product or a cheaper or a combination. But if you are looking to have an extra edge and you cannot compete, you probably produce the same product like your competition, then you add a service and you need to look the stages where you can put an information system that can support you to provide a better supportive activities or primary activities. Like as I said in the car manufacturing, they look at providing you support, and you might have a mobile application built in your mobile, downloaded in your mobile, where you can make a request of saying on-road assistant. And yeah, as you said, you always use utilizing benchmarking, industry best practice. A friend of mine has developed an application, and it's also called it a benchmark. And basically, this application, he was targeting mama and papa stores, not the big shopping stores, to find out when you come and shop and they do scanning, they will find out the combination that you are buying and what things is at which day they should order. The less time they order, the better for them, and where they should put them. The funny thing, they found out that on weekend, there is a big consumption of diapers and a big consumption of beer, case beers. So they found out that men, when they walk in, they want to buy a case of beer. They feel guilty about their family and start. They buy a case of diapers for their kids. So the way they did, these stores put the diapers beside the beer, and they found out, man comes in, buy the case of beer, and buys the diaper with it. And that's happened from, scanning all the shopping. The other thing they found out with this application, that usually men are willing to buy any jeans that's cheap, but they're not, uh, you know, uh, they're not interested to go to watches. But if they see them, they will buy them. So what they did, they put expensive watches beside cheap jeans. So the man comes in there, buy the jeans, not knowing, looking at the watch, likes the watch. He's not willing to pay $100 on the jeans. He's just going to pay $15 on that jeans and grab a watch of $2,000 or $1,000 and walk out. Um, you think these guys are brainless who does that, but they do that. This is where they found that the funny trend probably, where eventually a company from Netherlands bought this application because it was a good application, and they paid $180 million for these guys developers. Um, Benchmarking also, you do it in whether how many customers can utilize in this application in a concordant time. So in a benchmarking, you can have 150,000 people calling in the same time, or 250,000 or 1 million calling at the same time. Can this system can take it on and practice it well? Can the application can take it on and process it well? That's another way of looking at the benchmarking. But that application was also named benchmark. So this is what came in mind to present it for you. So whenever you go to supermarket, just don't go to the jeans because you're gonna end up buying $2,000 a watch, or make sure you buy your beer on Tuesday or Wednesday. Don't buy it on weekend because you end up buying diapers too. That's the advice is for the man. Just joking. Um, the value chain model, if you look at it, is there is what we said there is a supportive activities and there is a primary activities. We also do, I do it differently. I call it a front office and back end office or back office also activities. And usually you don't see, there is people that you don't see, and when things goes wrong, you dig on them, you look at them, and suddenly they come in your picture. These are the people usually in the back office or supportive, put it this way. You don't look for somebody who is maintaining your financial application unless something going wrong with your application. You don't talk to the HR unless you need something from them. So that's what you call a supportive activity, or what I call it a back office employees. And then, which is the supportive activities made of the administrative and management, human resources, technology itself, and procurement. And then you have the primary activities, which is the inbound of goods or services, inbound logistics, automated warehousing, operations, computers, sales and marketing, computerized ordering system, services and equipment, and logistics. In a way, primary activities, any activities that generate funds for us, generate revenues, altogether becomes a firm a value chain. Now we said that in the firm value chain, so we have all the source and procurement system, and we have the customer relations management system. So you, as any company, you are in the middle. You have the supplier who gets the supply from another supplier, and you are the firm who is supplying another distributor who is supplying the customer. You could be in the middle, or could be, uh, you know, uh, doing to the customer, but mostly you are supplying to the distributor and distributor supplying to the customer. So this is what you call industry value chain. Now we come to the value of the web. A firm's value chain is linked to the value of chain of its suppliers, distributors, and the customer. They're all connected to each other. An example like Amazon.com use a system that makes it easy to the supplier to display their goods on and open stores on Amazon, makes it easy for customer to pay for the goods, coordinate the shipment of the good to the customer, and track this shipment for the customer. Is very similar. Amazon got famous maybe the next last 10 years or less. That company, for example, OG Money, One Global, that we're going to discuss more. This company was established probably 30 years ago in the same field that we're doing. We're also going to talk about Tijari.com and how it works. And it's also is about e-commerce business mostly, and e-business when it comes to this sector of solutions. So the value of the web really, what's happened here, you got in the middle your industry, your own firm, your ERP system, your transaction system. You are connected to the suppliers and the supplier of the suppliers, which is suppliers connect to the suppliers, and you're connected to the customer or the distributor and the customer of the customers, and you can also have it connected to the through the web to the indirect suppliers maybe, and you can also have a strategic alliance and partner in a firms. The synergy, the core competency and network-based strategy. What's the synergy? Synergy when the output of some units uh, use as an input to other unit and on organization, pool, market, and expertise. This just, you have a one unit, you put it in a process, you end up with getting a new unit because of the process that you do and due to the labor and land that you have. And enhancing the core competencies is activity for which firm is world-class leader relies on knowledge, experience, and sharing there across. The thing that you need to look when you're an organization, what's your core competencies? First of all, what's your bread and butter? And what is your core competencies? And how you keep it enhanced and strong in that field. For example, um, the ITS, where core competencies was in providing core solution to the banking system. So they had banker consultant sitting there. They had religious consultant sitting there in the firm just to consult how to do the Islamic banking to the bankers, how to do banking consulting. So now they enhancing their core services, which is the core solution for their banking. Um, Network-based strategy take advantage of a firm's ability to network with each others. With the web, you can network, you can talk to each other. Through the web, you can, establish as a company, establish your level of authorities by publishing more data as more information. Technology Evaluation Center does it this way. When they have people coming in and downloading some information, they leave their data as their contact, and they start Technology Evaluation Center sending the new trend of solutions and all these things until they establish their authority level where the customers start thinking, potential customers thinking, okay, these guys knows more than I do. I rather to use them as a consultant. So take advantage of certain abilities to network with each other, include use of, these companies is also include the use of network. Like one more example, in the technology evaluation centers, they partnered with Oracle, partnered with SAP, partnered with all these big software provider in order to get their information and use them in their system and then certify them saying what, so we have one hub to certify all these information. It's also include the use of network economics, virtual company models. As we said, you can establish an offshore company or an onshore, and you don't have to have employees. And also include the business ecosystem. In the virtual company models, and it is, you can have your own company without having employees or a physical space. Virtual company uses the network to ally with other companies to create and distribute product without being limited to a traditional organization, no boundaries or physical location. Lee and Fung manager production shipment of garment for major fashion companies outsourcing all their work to the suppliers. In the business ecosystem, industry sets of the firm providing a related services and products. Uh, for example, Microsoft platform is used by thousands of firms for their own product. Walmart order entries and inventory management system. When you go to a supermarket, there is some supermarket do not buy from you product. They only provide your shelves, some of them just to rent it. So you put your stuff on that shelf and they don't pay you anything. You have to pay them by putting your products there. Microsoft in technology, they do the same thing. You use their platform to use to develop your apps on it. Google is in this field, and when you talk about web stores, all the apps is developed by third party, and they put on the web stores utilizing Google platform. Um, so what we have something called a keystones firms, which has dominated the ecosystem and create the platform used by other firms. Now, then you have the niche firms rely on the platform developed by the keystone, like the companies who provide the small apps on web stores. Uh, and then you have the individual firms can consider how the IT enabled them to become more profitable niche players in the larger ecosystem. So you might have multiple industries and working together, and in that industry, the ecosystem strategy model is you have a new market entries, you have supply, substitute products and services that forces suppliers and customers. And the digital firms era requires a more dynamic view of the boundaries among the industries, firms, customer, and the suppliers. And we talked about the flexibilities, how things is changing with this digital firms, digital era. Uh, so in the ecosystem model, multiple industry work together to deliver the value of customer. They can be different companies are working together. IT plays an important role in enabling and dense the network of interaction among the participant firms. You can see that in the fashion industries. You can see that in the IT industries. Most of the clothing is produced in Vietnam, Bangladesh, and you can see them or Turkey. And they are international product, which is supplied in Europe, Western Europe, or in North America. That's pretty strong. And they produced by a third party sometimes in the overseas. And same thing in IT also, you can see that different companies working together in a certain case, like the example I told you, is when there is two companies, they agree that whenever there is um, they signed a contract with one of the oil company, if they need an outsource, they would go and substitute it from this company and vice versa. So these are the things, and here's where the IT plays an important role, enabling a dense network of the nation. For example, Apple's, they're manufacturing in China. Dell, now they outsource their assembling of manufacture products in China. When I needed a laptop to have the whole system of banner on it, in that time, there was the laptop, I believe was IBM, built specially in Ireland, shipped to USA to put the application on it. They had two operating systems and then shipped back to me to utilize it. So here's the three company were working together to enhance their services and their products. The challenge is how you sustain the competitive advantage, because competitor can retaliate and copy and have a copy strategic approach, and they copy your strategic system. Competitive advantage is not always sustainable. You're not always ahead of everybody. And you notice these days, there is some companies is coming where they might eventually beat the Google. I remember we had a question in the old days, and the question was, Um, who do you think can compete with IBM? Um, I've mentioned Microsoft. I had my professor joking about it and laughing. Today, where is IBM when it comes to their applications compared to Microsoft application? Nothing. So you might have this not able to sustain it, and this competition comes in suddenly. And you've seen that, and we will talk also about the fact that how the control of the whole telecommunication system was in the hand of the operating the telecommunication system, then moved to hand because of Bill Apple situation. They move this control in the hand of the equipment itself, and then eventually these things is moving in the hand of the control of the customers, in the hand of application like Facebook, WhatsApp. Imagine the question: if tomorrow Facebook decide not to have this application running on Android, what will be the situation? As you see in what they did with China, Google decided to stop in the future their operating system in on Huawei's phones. Uh, so the aligning IT with a business objective, performing a strategic system analysis. As we said, when you make a solution, you always have to perform a strategic analysis. You have a goal and you have a business plan, how to reach to that goal, or strategic plan, how to reach to that goal. And we talked about the corporation, and you need to share these with everybody is that stakeholder, including the IT department or the chief information officer, in order to provide you this solution to make it smooth for you to move from point A to your goal reaching. So the performing of a strategic system analysis is through you're doing aligning IT with your business objective. Managing a strategic transition, adopting a strategic system require changes in the business goals, relationship with the customers and suppliers, and business processes. So you're not looking at your internal request, you look at what the customer wants, what's the supplier wants from you, and the whole environment, and you set up your IT solution accordingly. So this is the end of the chapter. I look forward to talking to you.